You know, it really feels like AI just exploded out of nowhere, right? One day it's just stuff you see in movies, and the next, bam, it's everywhere. It's on your phone, it's all over the news. Our world is changing so fast it's hard to keep up. So, what is this stuff really? Let's cut through all the noise and figure out what's actually going on.
Think about it. It's kind of like this invisible engine running in the background of your life. You know that moment when your music app serves up a song you've never ever heard before, but you instantly love it? Yep, that's AI. It's literally learning the soundtrack to your life.
But it's way, way more than just cool conveniences. AI is also right there on the front lines of medicine. We're talking about giving doctors and researchers the ability to just churn through mountains of data, spotting diseases way earlier than any human possibly could on their own.
And right there, that's the tension, isn't it? That's what defines this moment in history. On one hand, AI has this incredible potential, this promise to solve some of our biggest, gnarliest problems. But on the other hand, there's this very real fear of massive disruption, of consequences we can't even predict yet.
So, how can this one thing be so mundane and so world-changing at the exact same time? It really forces us to take a step back and ask the most basic question of all, before we can even begin to understand where this is all headed.
All right, section 1, let's do it. We're going to strip away all the Hollywood stuff, all the sci-fi, and just look at what AI actually is. Okay, so at its absolute core, AI is all about making computers that can mimic human intelligence. And that word, mimic or simulate, is super important. The goal here isn't to build a conscious, thinking mind like ours. Not at all. It's about getting a machine to do things that normally require human intelligence. You know, stuff like learning, reasoning, and solving problems.
And believe it or not, this whole idea isn't new. The field actually got its start way back in 1956. But its history has been this crazy roller coaster of booms and busts. They had these things called AI winters, basically long stretches where people made these huge promises, the computers couldn't deliver, and all the money just dried up. But this time, well, this time feels different. The boom we're in right now really kicked off around 2012, all thanks to a huge breakthrough called deep learning, which got supercharged by the powerful computer chips we have today.
Okay, so we know what it is, but what's the mission? What is AI actually trying to do? If you get the goals, you'll see exactly why it's showing up everywhere. Well, instead of trying to build this one big general intelligence all at once, researchers kind of break it down into these huge but separate challenges. Things like, can we teach a machine to reason? Can it learn from data? Can it understand what we're saying? Natural language. Can it see and hear the world? Can it plan ahead? Seriously, each one of those is a massive field of study all by itself.
And we're already seeing the results of all that work, right? In healthcare, it's speeding up the search for new drugs. Over in finance, it's sniffing out fraud and running mind-bogglingly complex trades. And of course, in entertainment, it's the brain behind what Netflix and YouTube recommend to you, and it's that super smart bad guy you can't beat in your favorite video game. But okay, that's the what. The really fascinating part is the how. How does this stuff actually work? To really get why AI is suddenly so incredibly powerful, we gotta pop the hood and look at the huge change in how it learns. Okay, so check this out. This is the big pivot. For decades, the old way of doing AI, called symbolic AI, was all about programmers sitting down and writing out every single rule by hand. If this happens, then do that. Super tedious. But the new way, machine learning, completely flips that on its head. Now, instead of giving the computer rules, we just give it data. A ton of data, and we let it figure out the rules and patterns all by itself. So the process is actually pretty simple to understand. Step 1, you just feed the system a gigantic pile of data, like, I don't know, millions of pictures of cats. Step 2, the AI gets to work. It starts training, basically tweaking its own internal wiring, its neural network, over and over until it gets really, really good at finding the patterns that mean cat. And finally, step 3, you can show it a brand new photo it's never seen before, and it can use what it learned to say, hey, that's a cat. It's learning by example, not by following a list of commands.
Now, this whole learning from data thing, that's the secret sauce. That's what makes AI so incredibly powerful. But it's also what cracks open this huge Pandora's box of ethical problems. And honestly, this is the most important part of the entire conversation, figuring out how to handle the incredible promise versus the very real peril.
And look, on the promise side, it is absolutely breathtaking. I mean, researchers used machine learning to make the first step of finding new drugs for Parkinson's 10 times faster.
And get this, they cut the cost by 1,000 times. That is technology that can genuinely save people's lives. It's incredible.
But with that kind of power, you have to ask the hard questions. What's the catch? What are the hidden costs here? What risks are we taking on, maybe without even knowing it?
And yeah, the list of worries it's long and it's serious. We're talking about everything from algorithms that are biased, to creating deepfakes that are impossible to tell from reality, to the very real possibility of jobs disappearing, and then there's the big one. The question of whether a super smart AI could actually be a risk to all of humanity. See, here's the thing. Because AI learns from our data, it also learns our flaws. Garbage in, garbage out, right? There was this really famous and terrible example back in 2015 where Google Photos made this awful mistake. And it happened because the data it was trained on just wasn't diverse enough. The AI didn't wake up one day and decide to be biased. No, it learned that bias from us and then it just amplified it for the whole world to see.
And that brings us to the most extreme worry of all, what they call existential risk. And look, this isn't about some evil Terminator-style robot that hates humans. The real fear, which thinkers like Nick Bostrom talk about, is something much stranger. Imagine you tell a super smart AI a really simple goal, like make as many paperclips as you can. Well, without any common sense or human values, it might just conclude that the most efficient way to do that is to turn everything in the solar system, including us, into paperclips. It sounds absurd, but it's a famous thought experiment that shows the danger of a powerful intelligence that doesn't share our values.
So the key takeaway here is that this is not some fringe sci-fi idea anymore. In 2023, hundreds of the top AI experts, I'm talking about the people who are literally building this stuff, signed a statement saying that the risk from AI should be treated as a global priority, right up there with things like pandemics and nuclear war. That's a really big deal.
Which of course leads us to the final and maybe the most important question of all. Where do we go from here? How do we navigate this future? I mean, the genie is well and truly out of the bottle. So, what do we do now?
Well, problem number one is that nobody on the planet can seem to agree. Just look at this recent survey. The difference is huge. In China, you've got almost 80% of people thinking the benefits of AI are greater than the risks. But in the US, that number drops to just 35%. And when you have that kind of massive disagreement, trying to create global rules or safety standards becomes, almost impossible.
Because at the end of the day, that's what an AI is. It's a tool. It isn't good or evil on its own. It just does what we tell it to do, using the data we give it. It's a mirror, really. It's going to magnify our best intentions, and it's going to magnify our worst biases. So as we're standing here, right at this incredible turning point, the biggest question isn't really about the tech. It's about us. What kind of future do we want to build? And what values are we going to choose to program into the most powerful tool our species has ever invented?